What's going on, YouTube? I'm back again. I wanted to go ahead and do another sales video. It's been a little while since I've done one of those, and that was kind of primarily why I said I wanted to do the channel. So I wanted to just get right back on track for anybody out there that is wanting to get a little bit better and learn more about door-to-door sales especially, but I mean you can really apply a lot of these to most sales positions. So this is going to be my 5 main tips to overcoming objections at the door. So in a way, this is going to be a follow-up video to a previous sales video I did. I'll link to it somewhere on one of these 2 sides. And if you haven't watched that video yet, go ahead and check that out. So I don't want to beat around the bush anymore. Let's just get right into it. So number 1 is don't sound salesy. So you might be asking yourself, well, this is a sales position. What do you mean by that? Well, I mean, you know the type. If you've ever bought a car or if you've had a door-to-door salesman come to your door before, a lot of you can usually tell the veterans from the newbies, because most of the newbies will just get straight into price. They're going to try to be talking really fast. They usually sound very robotic. And it's just this kind of regurgitated, generic sales pitches that they've just been taught out of the academy, and they're not experienced in doing or comfortable in doing what they're doing right now. There's a few key points that you can just kind of help avoid the main. So I always try to say avoid price or saving money or any of those. They're really easy go-tos, especially for new salespeople. Don't get caught up on talking too much about saving the money or beating deals or I got the best offer. I mean, that may not always be true. You might actually get into it with them and discover that you're gonna actually increase whatever they're paying for, I mean, whatever product or service that you might be offering. And once you hit that point, if you're telling them, if your opening pitch was, hey, I'm gonna save you money or I'm gonna beat your deal, then a lot of the times they're just gonna shut you down right there. They're just gonna say, oh, look, you're actually increasing my bill. I don't want to do this. And then you completely lost your prospect and the sale, and you just basically have to end it there. I mean, there's sometimes you can overcome that, but you just want to avoid walking yourself into a hole. So my advice is just kind of, if you can, just completely avoid talking about money or saving the money or beating deals or whatever price. I mean, you just try to avoid that. I mean, hey, if you get into it with them and it turns out, you are actually saving the money, then yeah, sure, you can use that. But as an opening pitch, as a general rule of thumb, it's usually a good idea to try to avoid that. And another part of this is most salespeople, they're known for talking really fast. So it's a good idea to just kind of relax, slow down your speech, and just talk to whatever prospect you're talking to, just like you're having a normal conversation with a friend. And the more you do it, the more you'll kind of get a feel for it and be able to, I mean, you want to bring about the same amount of energy as the person you're talking to. So if they're kind of talking a little bit faster than you normally do, then maybe just speed up your tempo just a little bit. But in general, it's a good rule of thumb to, be different. Most salespeople, like I said, are known for talking really fast. So if you slow down your speech and talk like you were just having a casual conversation, a friendly conversation with a friend, then they might actually open up to you and be a little bit more receptive, as opposed to if you're just talking to them really fast like this and you just come off really salesy, and then they're just going to want to slam the door in your face. So it's usually just a good idea to just avoid that entirely. And going back to your opening pitch, it's also probably a pretty good idea to try to leave out anything, not only about price or beating deals or sales or yada yada, but just really anything to do with sales at all. You don't want them to have an initial, because a lot of people, the first thing that they're going to tell you is probably a lie, just to shut you down and make you go away and get rid of you off of their door. So one of the things I try to do in my opening pitch is to leave off anything to do with sales, and sometimes I might open with, well, I'm blah from whatever company, and I'm just out in your area talking with some of your neighbors. I'm actually doing a survey to see what alternative providers that you and some of your neighbors might have. And I mean, you can kind of go in from there depending on what they say. If they say a competitor and maybe you know that your company has a pretty heavy footprint in that area, like there's a lot of their neighbors that have us, I mean, that's a good lead into, oh, wow, you're actually one of the first people I've talked to out here that don't have us. May I ask why it is that you chose to go with them? And you can basically kind of lead in from there depending on how the situation goes. But it's just, I mean, you don't have to do that, and you'll find your own, I mean, depending on what company, what product or service you're trying to provide, you'll find your own pitch. But just as a general rule of thumb, try to avoid any I'm out here beating deals, or I'm out here saving people money, or hey, what if I told you I could blah 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 and save you this much. I mean, usually it's just a good idea to just avoid that because it could end up backfiring. And number 2 is never walk away from the initial objection. I mean, usually you'll get a oh no thanks, or I don't have time, or maybe I'm not the homeowner. I mean, there's a dozen and one different things that they could just say. And like I said before, usually whatever the first thing they say is just something to get you to leave them alone and go away. But once you kind of break that first initial objection, a lot of the times people don't have something else to say. I mean, they might just repeat the last one or something, but usually if you can get over that first one, then it kind of segues you into kind of getting them to open up a little bit more. So some things, like if they're just like no thanks and they're about to slam the door in your face, then you can do like a pattern interrupt. And what that is just you just say something just to get them to stop. So something that might work is, oh, so you didn't want $1 million? So, I mean, obviously they're probably going to be like, well, this guy's definitely not going to be able to give me $1 million. But on the slight chance that he is, they might actually stop and listen to you. So, and it doesn't, I mean, just be creative, maybe say something funny that's going to get them to stop, and just maybe continue listening for, another 10 or 15 seconds. Just long enough for you to get into your main pitch or whatever it is, just to kind of see their reaction. Just don't let them just slam the door on your face without at least trying to say something. So a good one in response to the I don't have time is, look, I completely understand. I'll only take a second to see if I can help you out. I can't promise that I can, but I've been going around your neighborhood, and I've actually been able to help out a lot of your neighbors. And I just wanted to see if I could help you too. I mean, if you can come off really genuine like that, then they might actually stop and listen to what you have to tell them. So, I mean, and another one, a classic one is, well, I'm not the homeowner, or, I'm not the decision maker, or, well, I like to, the classic, I like to talk everything over with my spouse. So, I mean, that's a really popular one. So there's a couple of different things you can do here, and it also kind of depends on your company. So if your company offers some type of money-back guarantee, then you might be able to still kind of push for the sale and just explain to them, hey, look, we have this money-back guarantee. Wouldn't it be a little bit better to talk with your significant other if you had more details in front of you, and maybe you can just kind of experience it together? I mean, it really depends on what product or service you're offering. I mean, if you're offering something like a cable or some type of utility service, then maybe you can say, well, look, try us out. If you don't like it, we have this money back guarantee. So if that's not an option and they're still pressing on, well, I can't do this, I'm not the decision maker, or I have to talk it over with my significant other, then another really good tool you can use is just say, well, I understand, I get it completely. When's a better time for me to come back and discuss? Or, oh, when do they get home? Or when would be a good time for me to drop back by and just kind of talk to both of you? And on top of that, I wouldn't just get a better time to come back. I mean, usually people will say whatever they can just to get you off their door. So, I mean, and in the moment, they might have something else going on. They're probably just going to spit out the actual time that they're going to get home because they're too busy thinking about other things. They're probably going to tell you what the actual time is that they might get home just to get rid of you. And so usually you do get actually a genuine time. And on top of that, I would try to get, is there a better time that I could maybe call and do this with you over the phone, maybe at your leisure? Can I get like a phone number or email or, get some kind of contact information? I mean, I would try to get both. And make sure you contact them back whenever the best time, or like whatever time they tell you is, or do some type of follow-up whenever the time they tell you is a better day or time. And I mean, there's so either on a rainy day or something, because sales, door-to-door sales is so heavily involved on obviously going out and knocking doors, that you just need some referrals and callbacks to do on certain days where the weather's just not in your favor. So, I mean, that's a really good one. You have all this list of maybe phone numbers or emails from people that you made contact with that maybe you can do some type of follow-up with them. So that's just don't go for the initial objection and just say, all right, and then go to the next door. I mean, when I first started out, it was just like a reflex for me to do that because, I mean, I didn't know what else to say. But I don't want to bother this person. I mean, they're busy, they're upset, they've got something else going on. I'm just gonna leave them alone and go to the next door. But once I started doing this for a while, I started to realize that a lot of people just said whatever to get rid of you, and a lot of times they had plenty of time. And once I kind of got over that initial objection, I was able to really get into it with them, and I made a lot of sales doing that. And if I would have just said, oh, I get it, okay, I'll go to the next door, then I would have never made the sale. I mean, there's plenty of times I've gotten a phone number or I came back later whenever they said that, was a better time or when their significant other would be home, and I closed a deal. So just rule of thumb is just don't fall for whatever the initial objection is. At least try to, I mean, you can't do it. It doesn't work for everybody. You're probably going to get some door slammed in your face in the middle of you talking, and it feels really demeaning, but I mean, you just got to roll with the punches in this job. But if you can just get yourself to overcome that initial objection or get them to just grab their attention for a second right before they close the door on you, then you can actually go ahead and have a really good chance at making the sale or closing them. And number 3 is to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. But for real, number 3 is be very energetic and enthusiastic at the door. So you want to bring a lot of energy, bring a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, don't come off fake or just fast talking like I said, because then you'll just come off salesy. You really want to, I mean, you should already have had a thorough understanding of your product, and you should really be very genuine and really honestly feel like you can bring some kind of added value to whatever prospect that you're talking to. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't believe in what you're selling, then you should probably just give up now and quit your job, because you're just going to not make any sales, honestly. So really bring genuine enthusiasm to the door, because if you just come off dull or bored or tired, then they're gonna realize that. It's gonna probably tell whoever you're talking to a couple of things. Like, this person either doesn't care about the job, they're not very enthusiastic about what they're selling, or they don't care, or they don't think that this could really help me out. So if they don't think that they could help me out, why would I listen to anything that they're gonna say? So it's just a good rule of thumb to have as much energy and bring as much energy as you can at the door. I mean, you can maybe tell a joke or be funny at the door. You change it up, make it exciting. I mean, try to have fun, but don't force it. Don't force the joke. If that's not your personality, then, I mean, find something else to kind of bring it enthusiasm and energy. And number 4 is know your local competition for each area. I mean, this will take some digging, and you might have a good general idea depending on what industry you're in when you're going into the job. But try to dig a little bit deeper. I mean, and this is also something that as you do this position more, you'll hear different things from different people, different customers that you might sell. They might actually tell you, oh, this is why I want to switch or go with you instead of blah. And you can learn a lot from that from time, but in the beginning, when you're just starting out, just do as much research as you can. I mean, you want to know what companies are in your area that you might be working, what their limitations are, what their benefits are versus your limitations. And if you know this enough, then you can use that as kind of a segue to overcome some objections at the door. So a common one would be like, well, I have blah, after you give your pitch and say what company you're with, a lot of times the person might even interrupt you and stop you and say, well, I have blah company and we're happy with them. So, I mean, that's a really common one, but you can kind of lead into that with, something like, oh, I understand and they're a great company, but I was just curious, I was doing a survey in your area and I'm talking with a lot of your neighbors, and some of your neighbors that had that company mentioned blah issue or blah problem or slow this or bad customer service, whatever it may be. And you can just say, well, they said blah, and I was just wondering, were you experiencing the same problem, or were you having the same problem? And you can kind of lead into that sometimes, 'cause even if people say they're happy, like I said, a lot of the times it's just an initial reaction to get you to go away. And if you can get over that and you can bring out maybe something you did learn from, legitimately, I use that all the time. I would be out talking with neighbors, and one of them would just tell me, oh, yeah, this person's really slow, or their customer service is terrible, or, different things. And, you can use that at the next door to say, oh, you have that company? Well, some of your neighbors, said they were having this type of issue. I was kind of doing a survey. You don't want to make it sound like, oh, yeah, this company's bad, look what they're doing. You want to avoid that, but if you say it in a way to just out of general curiosity, then a lot of times they'll kind of open up to you. So if you just say like, oh, well, yeah, your neighbors are saying, they are finding that they had blah issue or something. I was just curious for a survey. Were you having the same issue? And if you say it that way, then sometimes they might just be like, no, whatever. And they just, you're not going to be able to qualify everybody. And some people just absolutely don't want to talk to you. It's door-to-door sales. You're cold knocking on doors. You're going to get rejected. But a lot of times, if you can get over that initial rejection, then they might even, oh yeah, you know what? I was having such and such issue now that you mention it. And the last one, number 5, is probably actually one of the more difficult obstacles to overcome. And that's usually your product or company or service doesn't offer a blank feature or benefit or whatever, and we have to have this. So a lot of times in this one, it's going to take a lot of previous experience to know how to overcome this objection. But one thing you can do is research. Like I said, this goes back to researching your competition, is understand what different options that they have that your company, your product or service may not have, and do research. Just use Google to do a quick search on alternative solutions before you go out there. So you can keep this in your back pocket. Maybe you won't need it, and that would be great. But if you do, then you have that in your back pocket, and you can use that as just whatever it might be, like a different idea or different package or different something else that still gets them close to what they want, that you might be able to make the sale. And you can actually kind of segue into that. Maybe as a leader, you could be like, they might say, well, we have to have this. And at this point, they're probably already opening up to you if you got this much information. But so that we need this, and we absolutely have to have this. We cannot be without it. And you can kind of segue from there and say, well, so with the exception of that, then everything else that we talked about, that sounds great, and you would go with us if I was able to bring you blah. And a lot of times, I've noticed a lot of people will say, yeah. If they're at that point and that's their main objection, that's probably the only thing that that they really have any problem with. So if you're very knowledgeable and you've done a lot of research on some possible alternative solutions to them, a lot of time, I mean, I wish I knew a lot of the things that I did later on doing this job that I did in the beginning, because I really feel like there was a lot of sales that I missed out on just because, I mean, I just didn't know, what possible alternatives there could be until, I worked the job for a while and I just gained experience. And unfortunately, sometimes that might be the case, but I mean, just do a quick Google search and see what you come up with. I mean, you never know. And as always, I mean, you can't sell everybody, unfortunately, and there's gonna be some people that you're not gonna have a perfect or ideal alternative solution, and they're just not gonna want to go with your product. And at that point, once you've realized that, I mean, don't waste any more time trying to convince them. You're probably better off just ending it, giving them your information, I mean, being pleasant about it. But the main thing is, I mean, some people you're just not going to be able to sell, so don't waste their time or your time any more than you have to, and just cut it off and move on to the next one. And like I mentioned in my previous video, there's really no substitute for just going out there and knocking on some doors and just getting the experience. I mean, there's some things that I've read a ton of books and, watched all kinds of videos. I've done all kinds of stuff. And the thing that made me grow the most is just going out there and doing it. And I'm hoping maybe I can cut your learning curve a little bit by giving you these 5 tips. But just the main thing, don't get discouraged, don't give up. If you just keep going out there and stay positive and stay motivated, I know you'll absolutely be successful. And as always, if you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you can be notified of future videos, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The links to that will be down in the description. And in the comment section down below, let me know which of these tips was your favorite and which one that you're gonna try at your next prospect.